joke was that our state flower is mildew because it rains so much.
And so you might just accidentally push yourself in the wrong direction a little bit, and then it's like, I'm going to pay for it the next day.
There's no guarantee whether we'll do it.
But I was just like chilling, I look over and I was like, oh, hello, vagina. I was
keep that compass pointed, true north to what you believe.
Definitely don't go to school.
Go to rock and roll school.
That's kind of crazy, but
I don't remember this.
Me neither.
But when it comes to write lyrics, I really, it's a pain in the ass for me,
Wow, this is what I want to listen to during my whole life.
Did you really bring that up? That was a private conversation.
I hope people keep thinking that I'm really relaxed while I'm playing and do not realize when I'm playing the difficult parts of the song.
Those things are always interesting just because I'm so scattered.
Polka metal can be interesting.
Polka metal, yeah. I like it.
It's a microphone. What am I supposed to do with this? I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I know who to sue.
Yeah.
It was that being told I can't and I shouldn't made me want to do it.
And I'm really hopeful that that's not possible.
I want to be in their presence, so I conduct my life in a way that I hope that they want to be in my presence as well.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts based here in Seattle, Washington. Thank you so much for joining me on this Monday, the 7th of June, 2021. And I hope everyone else is having a good week out there, the start to their week, and a few housekeeping things to go through as always. I do have some more live streams scheduled this week. I have one at noon tomorrow on Tuesday, and I've got two on Thursday scheduled right now. One's at noon and one's at 1:30 Pacific Daylight Time for all of those. And I was just noticing that if things go according to my schedule, if all of the live streams happen as planned, the interview on Thursday at noon will be the 100th live stream for this year, 2021 for me. We just passed the 200 mark for live streams overall. That was early last week. And now just for this year, it'll be 100 on Thursday if all of these happen according to plan. So I'm extremely grateful for anyone that takes the time to watch what I do, to support what I do. Every YouTube video that I have on my channel, there's always a PayPal Me link in the description if you feel like you'd like to donate or make a tip. Those are always appreciated. I just got one, I think a few days ago from a supporter, and that helps me put money back into it. I actually just realized that like my my backdrop and my paintings and things that I've done, it hasn't changed in a while. It's been a couple months. So if you want to see this change, you can help me by making a donation or tip through my PayPal Me link. And that's only if you're so inclined and if you're in a position to do so. I completely understand people are struggling out there as well. So, but just know that it's always there. So if you click on the hyperlink, it takes you there. And if you're on my YouTube channel for the first time watching this, if you could subscribe to my channel, that's greatly appreciated. It doesn't send you emails or anything like that. If you want to know what's coming up, you click the little notification bell next to it. That will send you email so you're aware of what I have upcoming. But if you would just like to help support what I do, subscribing to my channel always helps. And if you're over on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me over there, that also helps a lot too, building up my my followers and my community here. So if you also would follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram, that's where I post everything first, and then some of that information migrates over to Facebook. Not all of it, though. Some of it stays exclusive to Instagram, as that's my platform of choice. And yeah, so that's kind of where everything's at for today. So let's get to my interview this afternoon. I'm excited. I'm always excited when I have guests that come back and return, and we can kind of dive deeper into their particular art expertise area. My guest today is a progressive rock band from Canada. Their new album, Project Cypher, was just released at the end of May. Please welcome back to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Don Dewulf from the Wring. Hi, Don.
Hey, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing really good, sir. How are you?
Good, good. And congrats on the 100. That's a lot. That's impressive to do the 100 of these. That's amazing. Good for you.
Well, thank you very much. And yeah, it feels like a lot of time. On one hand, it's kind of like, did I really hit 100 already? And it's just June. And other times it's like, yeah, it feels like I've done that much. But I'm just so grateful and thankful that people have taken the time to come on, the guests, the viewers, anyone that supports what I do. And I never would have guessed that during a pandemic period of time that my channel would have grown exponentially, but it has. So that's it's definitely been a silver lining for me during this time.
Awesome. You do a great job. So there's no surprise. That's great.
Oh, thank you. Well, you've got to be feeling good that as we talked about on April 27th, that your album is officially out for the masses on all platforms, including physical media.
Yes. Yeah, it's I retained the services of John Asher from Asher Media this time to properly promote it. And I thought you just like, as soon as you start talking about it, you just send it out. But that's not how it goes when you're doing it properly or whatever. So there was a substantial lead up, and he's got such great media contacts and whatnot. I don't want to say it was anticlimactic getting to the release, but you certainly a lot of roads were driven before it actually went out for real. So yeah, it's awesome. I'm happy that it's out, and the process has been a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, and I know you're getting because I noticed even like before we did the first interview, I was looking at like numbers through your YouTube channel and even across other social media, and I'm seeing those numbers go up, and that obviously is attributed to yourself, the interviews you're doing through John, and just people liking the music too.
Yeah, it's I don't want to say it's been shocking, but you never really know, right? Because I think musicians and musician types that all swim in the same pond, they're all very supportive of each other. So they'll always say, I heard your record. It's so fantastic. You're the greatest ever. And then you say to them, oh, I heard your record and it's the greatest ever. So everybody's got the greatest ever. And you never really know what it is for real until it gets out to people who are unbiased or who might not like it. Right? To me, that's my bass player, my friend Jason Henry, said to me a Neil Peart quote that, if you believe the good reviews, that means you also have to believe the bad reviews, right? But to me, the bad reviews tell a different tale and have a different interpretation that I appreciate almost as much, maybe more than the good reviews, right? So it's been quite fun.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because I know I've talked with some filmmakers and they talk about their process, that not so much from the review point, but that from the failures they've made during their process of making their films, that's what they've learned more from than the successes.
Right. And I wouldn't say there's been anything horrible, that's for sure, but definitely people see things differently, and everybody interprets these things differently. And you call this prog, and some people call it prog, but prog people don't call this prog. Like they're almost offended that someone would present my album as prog, because first of all, the songs are only 5 minutes or less. The whole album is 29.5 minutes. It's only 7 songs, and so that to a stodgy true prog head is almost offensive. So this is how they evaluate it out of the box without even putting it into something to play. Is that it's too short. The songs are too short, and no, like it can't be prog. So it's quite comical. I see these reviews and I see these commentaries, and I just have to laugh, because I know exactly what they're talking about.
And I'm laughing too, being a musician myself, that on one hand, I understand, especially being a reviewer like myself and the media that I do, that if someone in that particular case talks about the songs are too short, or to them it doesn't fit into what they consider traditional progressive rock or progressive music, period. On the other hand, it's like, did you even listen to the music to hear the songs, let alone a genre or anything else that you're trying to box them into? And I see that all the time from press releases. Sometimes I'll look and see a picture, and it's like, well, what's this band about? But based on the picture, it may not match the music at all. And it's like, well, now I'm doing it. I need to actually just listen to the music and think, what do I like? What do I think about this, regardless of what it's being promoted as? And I know, even like when I was going through band in like junior high and high school, that for me, it was more of the folks that were heavy into jazz, where they're very particular about what they like, and they'll definitely tell you what they don't like.
Yeah, more often than what they do like. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was always kind of like, hey, you have your opinion, that's fine, but it's kind of like, I think you're missing out on a lot of really quality music, and you're just not willing to listen to it because it's not in that silo of what you consider jazz, or just anything a little bit beyond it. They would get highly offended if you talked about like a smooth jazz record to them about this is jazz, and then they're like, what are you talking about? That's not jazz. And they'll give you a million reasons why it's not. It's like, look, I'm just saying I like listening to it. I'm not going to get into that deep dive with you about all the particulars. It's like, do you like this or do you not?
Right.
Yeah,
it's funny. And unfortunately, I guess, or fortunately, I don't even know. Like, like when I approached John and we, I gave him the music and said, like, I never saw this as a prog record. Like, there's some interesting things in there, but like, prog is odd time signatures and whatever, strange chords or whatever. But that's a pretty broad definition. But I intended this to be more of a hard rock record with some interesting bits in it. But he said, no, the crowd that you have to go toward is the prog crowd, because they'll get it. Like, you can't really dance to this. You can't really sing along to it. Your wife is going to hate it, because I remember in one of the Rush documentaries, they said, they had the girls from Heart there. And they said, Rush in the 70s is like a dog whistle that only guys can hear. And and I think that's, not to offend any females, right? But I'm going to say that 98.7% of the interaction that I've had in the past 2 months about this music is dudes. And it's just a thing. Like, I don't know, maybe the girls hide in the woods. I don't know, but typically that's the demographic, I think, that gravitates towards this because of the nature of it. It's a bit of a challenging listen sometimes. So my wife is very supportive, but I don't think she cares for this very much.
Well, and that's funny because you mentioned one of the Rush documentaries. I remember one of those too, where Alex Lifeson was talking about that when they started off, their audience was 100% male, and about 5 years in, it was 100% male. And then they cut to something more recent, like in the on the 2010 to the last year of them touring 2015, and there's a lot of females there. And it was interesting though, talking to some, because a lot of them got brought there by a boyfriend or a husband and didn't really know much about them, and ended up liking it. And then other ones were diehard fans, played the instruments, loved all that stuff. But yeah, there's something about that genre that just seems to attracts dudes first for whatever reason. And you're right about the hard rock aspect of it. For me, being a metalhead growing up and that kind of thing, and there's definitely some parts, not only on this album but also on the first album, where the riffing gets kind of headbanging-ish to me, which I like. And then it'll go into this really technical stuff with the guitar, and you hear the bass kind of intertwining things, and that's definitely the drum parts, almost to where it's like, I don't know who that was, but someone was talking about from like a progressive metal band, saying that the hardest part was always for the singer, because they couldn't figure out where they fit in on this really complex music. Is that kind of the same for you?
That's a very good observation, and very, very true. On the first record, there's a song, and I love the song. So the guitar riff is in 3, and the drums are in 4. So of course, every cycle, 3 cycles of the drums and 4 cycles of the guitar, they meet up. So it kind of works, right? And it's kind of a groovy thing. And our singer at the time, when we were a band, we were actually standing in a room together playing these songs and on stage. And he couldn't sing it. He couldn't sing it in 3. He struggled so much because he wanted to follow the drums, and he would try, and then he tried to sing in 4, but it didn't work against the guitar, because what that 3 feel, right? It's very pronounced and very, that's where the melody has to be, is in the 3, not the 4. so he had a real hard time with that. It took him a long time to kind of get his head around what he was trying to do. And then with Mark Bonilla on the new record, there's some very challenging things to sing over on the new one. And Mark is such a pro that he didn't seem to have much issue with that. In fact, what he did was almost the opposite. I have one of the songs, and I won't say which one, but the verse was in 3. And again, 3 has a very pronounced kind of bounce to it, right? And I really like that. And he sang in 4. and it was actually an 8/9, and so he kind of spaced out his 8 to drop over the 9, and I thought, oh my God, that's not what I wanted. And he said, just trust me, it works. So I went with it. You might be able to guess which song that was, but I went with it. Not necessarily against my better judgment, because Mark is spectacular, but yeah, it's interesting for the singer trying to do something with this stuff, because a lot of times it's not 4 on the floor. It's not Neil Young, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also kind of speaks to maybe if there's a casual listener that hears the Ring for the first time, they're feeling like, what is this? Or like they're into a groove, and then all of a sudden it changes time signatures or something, and then they're lost again because now their head can't do this, or their foot can't do this.
Right.
That's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of some of the qualities of this music, and why musicians start going nuts for it, because they love, oh, did you hear what they just did there? I wonder if they're going to do this. They start anticipating the changes within the tune. And then someone who just wants to hear a really great song, depending on where they're coming from, they might say that this is a really great song. Then maybe that's too confusing for me. I don't understand this. Where's the 4/4 song that I can listen to and sing the melody to?
Right. And I actually tried to do both here. Like, I think some of the songs are I'd say you can't sing along, but I think there are some very memorable vocal moments in the songs. Like, I really think Mark did an amazing job. His voice is not at all what I would have sort of chosen or even envisioned for this. It's like he has almost like a Daryl Hall type of voice, that Daryl Hall singing over Tool or something like that. Like, it's not something that you would expect, but he has such a beautiful delivery that I do think that a casual listener could get something out of most of the songs. Maybe not all of them, but something for sure. Hopefully.
Yeah, and if they go check out, like I had that short clip from the latest video there that I played in the intro. You can hear his voice, and you can hear like the amount of melody that's going on, and that should be able to catch anybody, regardless of what your music background is or what you listen to on a daily basis. But
agreed.
Yeah, and so I know when we talked last time, it was just over a month ago that at least down here, things are starting to open up slowly, and I'm seeing press release after press release about tours. I just saw 2 today from Live Nation about things that are actually happening this summer, not even pushing into the fall. Where you're at, is there any possibility of bringing this music to a stage somewhere outside, like during the summertime, or is it like we're not even looking at that, or where are you at with the live thing?
Well, I don't have a band right now. This album was done entirely virtually. Jason Henry, he played bass on 4 of the songs. He lives in my town here. He prefers the studio to the stage, and I'm not sure. I might try and convince him to get onto the stage or get in a room and see how it feels. I'm pretty sure I could rustle up a drummer locally. My trick is a singer. I'm not sure that I could get someone that could replicate what Mark has done. So I'm gonna let this go out a little bit and just sort of see, because the other thing I should mention, sooner than later, is I did sign a record deal with Wormhole Death Records. They're a label out of Italy, of all places, and from the name, you might think that they're, very heavy stuff. And I think historically they have been. I think he's been around for maybe 15, 16 years. And he heard the record and he loved it. And he said, it doesn't sound like anything else. It sounds unique. Like, you can hear snippets of something that, okay, maybe that was something like Rush, but the context is not Rush at all, and that was a little bit like Tool, but the context is completely not Tool. So everybody steals from everything, subconsciously or otherwise. But he heard something interesting in this, and he said, I'd like to take your record to the world. So I said, sure, let's do that. So it's just distribution right now because everything was done, like all the production, everything was completely done. So he's going to distribute it globally, and depending on the results of that, like there could be opportunities, for some sort of players. I think if the more people that get in touch with this, and if I keep saying it over and over again that I'd really love to have a band again, sooner or later someone's going to go, pick me, kind of thing. I'm hoping, right? Because I think this would translate very well live. It's the first record we did, same kind of approach, lots of things going on, but when we played those songs live, it really worked, and it was really good. And I think this one would too. And I'd love to give it a go, because there's like some of the songs have 20 guitar tracks on them. So to try and take those and squash them into one that kind of sounds like the record is a great challenge and a lot of fun. So I would love to do that. But right now my prospects where I live are not the best. So we'll see.
Okay, well, congratulations on getting the record deal, distribution deal with those, because I've actually heard of them. And one of the bands I remember was like a gothic symphonic metal type of band from Europe that was one of the many on their roster. So I was like, oh, wow,
yeah,
okay, that's great.
He's got a lot of artists and a lot of reach and a lot of activity and a really nice guy, like really down to earth, and answered any questions and concerns. And as an independent artist, like my primary goal is not financial. Like I know that there's no money in this. If I could even break even on something, I'd be happy. But I don't even expect that. But just having it out to as many people as possible, because I think that there is a sect, a cult maybe of musicians or music listeners that would really like this. And from the feedback I've gotten, I think I'm fair in saying that. And I just want to put it in as many hands as I can, because that's gratifying to have somebody say, hey, I got your record and I really like it. Great, perfect. That's why I did it. So we'll see how he does.
Okay, yeah, no, I totally feel what you're saying, because for me, what I do here, it started off strictly as a passion. I just had a passion for interviewing people, and being a musician and a lover of music of all kinds back in 2011 when I started. So it was like, if I can just connect with some people that I am a fan of, that would be the prize in itself, let alone getting a few dollars from it, or connecting to other disciplines of arts, which has happened, and just kind of blows my mind. Anytime you probably heard me do the whole PayPal me link donation thing, but I felt kind of funny about it initially, because it's like, well, that's not why I did this. But it's like, well, no, you're working hard, so if someone feels like they want to support you, that is one way they can do it. And then I started getting some, so I'm like, now I feel like I really have to do that much more or something. But I'm just so appreciative when anyone just takes the time to watch, listen, and you're saying, trying to get your music out to as many people so that they can take a listen to it. It's that's a lot for independent folks, just to get their their passion out there, and then getting a response, whatever that response is, and then kind of seeing where it leads. And I have a feeling you're right that what's going to happen is by what's June now, so let's say August, September-ish time, depending on when they get this distribution set through your new contract, that you're probably going to start getting a lot of inquiries from drummers, from singers, from whoever, saying, hey, I saw that interview, I heard through the grapevine that you're looking to get a band to do this thing live. I'd love to do it. Here's where I'm based, or whatever. And so maybe by fall or something, or even winter, you might have some opportunities to do some gigging, or maybe taking it over to Europe. I don't know. You can't ever tell.
You can never tell. I would have never guessed it would have gotten this far, Mark, and here we are. So it's super cool, like really cool. And you're right, it is entirely passion, and that's why I do this, and seeing it come to fruition is quite amazing.
Yeah, and I know one thing that I wanted to bring up that I don't think I did during the first interview that we did, was that with the cover art and the back part of it and the inside of it, it looks, at least to me, it reminds me of The Matrix. Was that on purpose? And also,
Nice.
what's the meaning behind the title?
Right. So when we had the song called Cipher, and I love that word. I love words, and you notice my song titles are always one word. I try and make them only one word, and I try and pick a really cool word that has a meaning to me. And so the Cipher instrumental on the record, I love that word. And we were kicking around names for the album, and I had a bunch, and then I just started calling this project Cipher because it's I guess you could say it's more of a project than an actual band right now, and it just kind of stuck. And now that I look, I see it, it works, and it's very reflective of the album, I think. And because of the pandemic, first of all, everybody's at home in front of a screen all day. They were already, but now they're like really at home, all day in front of a screen. And this record was created in front of a screen by me and by the other fellas from a distance. And I think, when you look at the cover, you can see in the center of the screen, there's the spiral there. It's kind of a bit of a Tool ripoff. They discuss spirals and the Fibonacci sequence and that sort of thing. So I guess I sort of pilfered that idea a little bit from them. But for a lot of people, that spiral is going inward, and they get sucked into that screen and spend their whole life in front of a screen, and it's not ideal, for sure. For me, what that spiral is moving outward, and I started this with nothing, and then couple guys, Thomas Lang, Mark, and then Forrester to mix, and John Asher, and you, and all the people that have spiraled out from this has been absolutely amazing. And I think we all live in a digital world now. Like, everything that we touch is digital. Your car is digital. Like, it's incredible, right? So the Matrix, it's kind of, you might say, corny or something like that. I love the color, like the green. I really like the green, and I just thought it would fit so well with the image of the guy looking at his computer screen. So it was all kind of thought out, I guess. And if you open the cover on the inside, you see on the left panel, you'll see a Fibonacci spiral, which is again, moving outward as you add pieces to the puzzle. And it's really, that's kind of how this whole thing has gone, from zero to a whole bunch of people now involved in this, with Wormhole and all the people that have been involved in making the record. So it's kind of symbolic too, right? So it's all been fairly well thought out, I think.
Yeah, no, thanks for explaining that. I mean, I didn't even think about that. Again, for me, looking at it, and like you said, a lot of people, if they're looking at the cover and that center screen out of the 9 screens, they see it going in. But you're talking about that it's like a ripple in a pond. It's spreading out. And as I look on the inside, yeah, and so that's, I've said this before during other interviews. I always like it when artists have intention behind what they do, and that could be something like a cover, could be the lyrics, to every little detail of whatever project they're working on. And sometimes things happen coincidentally. Someone picks up on something and says, well, that's not what I planned, but I'm glad you saw that or whatever. But I like the fact that there's intention of starting with this passion project and then watching it just just go well beyond what you thought it was going to, and it's still not done. It's still going to keep on going with more ripples with Wormhole and all the distribution they're going to get you, and that's going to get you more interviews and more coverage and reviews and yeah, just kind of watch and say, where's this ride going? I know I'm enjoying it.
100% true. That's all exactly how I feel. If it stopped today, I'd be happy, right? But it's not going to. So it's we'll see where it goes.
Well, and I think you mentioned this to me last time. But so there's on the new album, there's 7 songs. Was there a part of an 8th song sitting around or half done, or these were the 7 songs that represented your vision?
Well, quite honestly, it was going to be 6 songs. I was just going to call it an EP. And then I had the song Cipher, which my bass player, Jason, loved. And he said, no, we have to get Thomas to play that song. Like, it's killer. And, it turns out that's the song that most people seem to gravitate towards, an instrumental of all things, right? But that's the dog whistle again. But so the 7th song, he said, you got to include that. So I put that on. But to be 100% truthful, like, making a record like this with pro guys is very expensive, and each guy gets paid by this song. So 7 was really all I could afford at the time. Like I have another whole album written. Like the Wring 3 is pretty much ready to go. Like I'm ready to start demoing that. So I could have had 10 songs on this album for sure, but it just gets so costly. And as a guy sitting in his basement, like the cover of the record, that's me sitting in my basement by myself, you know, interacting with cool guys and pros, but they all got paid. Like there was no collaboration on this. Like I gave them what to play and they played it. Like they did it in their own way, of course, but and you know, they took it in a direction and to a level that I could have, you know, never imagined, and it's spectacular. But I had to pay them all. So, you know, to the prog guy who's cranky that it's only 29 minutes and only 7 songs, I say it's simple economics, you know, at the time, and you know, I can't, you know, I can't apologize for that. So that's why it's 7 songs. Otherwise, it'd be more, because I've got a lot more.
Well, I appreciate your transparency, and I think that's something that people don't take into account, that when you have guest stars, or especially the caliber of who you have on this record, it's not like, well, this is my best friend since 2nd grade, and so they just decided, you know, do one for the team kind of a thing. It's like, no, they're professional musicians, and they need to be paid to make a living, especially during the time of, you know, the last 15 months. Right. So it's like, yeah, unless you're independently wealthy or, you know, secretly a superhero or something, you don't have access to these kind of dollars to make a double album or a prog album that's an hour and a half long or whatever. You do what you can within your means, and then kind of hope for the best.
Precisely, which is what I did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and there's something else with do you plan on, like you kind of mentioned that you already have enough material really to kind of get ready for the Wring 3. Is that kind of how you envision it being, like Wring 3, Wring 4, Wring 5, and keep adding the numbers, or don't know at this point?
I don't know. You know, I when I spoke with Carlo at Wormhole, you know, he was so kind and nice and enthusiastic. Like he said, you know, let's do distro on this one, because it's you know, there's nothing else that he can do, you know, in relation to production or anything like that. It's already done. So he said, do distribution, but if you have more material, we can talk about recording and publishing, like on the next one. So, you know, he might have something, or he might just say, no, that's enough. I had enough of you. Like that's all. But he might not. Like it's hard to know. Or somebody else might come along and say, you know, I kind of dig what you're trying to do, and that's. So I think you know, I'd almost look to have a little bit more input from outside to just refine the vision of how this would be presented to the world, I guess, because, you know, I trust my own vision to about 86%, but the other 14, I could use a hand. So yeah, I kind of like how I stuck the 2 on there, because it was the second Wring record, and I made it as an exponent, because I do think that it was exponentially better than the first one. You know, not the songs necessarily, but the production and a few other things I think are just better. So, you know, will the third one be a Wring cubed? I don't know, but I kind of like that kind of the look of it. So maybe.
Okay, well, and that makes sense too. And I'm curious that with having listened to the first record and also this record, and again, maybe this is something that is way off, you know, not even on the back burners. Maybe it's in the freezer or something of the fridge. But have you considered doing a release where you remove the vocals and just make it all instrumental? Kind of like the Wring 2 Part 2 or Super Deluxe version or whatever. Some artists are doing that these days.
That's a very cool idea, and you know, I hadn't really thought of that. Although when I write a song, and I'm still constantly writing. I'm working on things. You know, I'll go home tonight and I'll work on songs tonight. That's what I do every night, every day. But when I write a song, like you could really, I think, take out the lyrics or the words, the vocals from any of these songs, and they could sound fine as an instrumental. I think most of these songs could sound fine as an instrumental. So that's actually kind of a cool idea, because sometimes the vocals take center stage, and they have to, especially when you have a guy like Mark singing. Like, I want to hear his voice. Like, it's great. So that's I think words connect with people better than a straight up instrumental. And I think having one instrumental is kind of cool. I think all instrumental might be a bit much, but as a limited edition kind of situation, on top of, I think that's a very cool idea. So I might follow through on that. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. It's just something that organically came to me as I was listening to the music, and some of the other artists that I've seen, especially from like the more electronic side of things, they'll put out their album, and then maybe 6 months later you'll see the remix come out, or they'll see this other kind of version of those songs. I'm kind of like, well, that's interesting because it's like a different take on it. And in this case, I totally agree with what you just said, that I feel that those songs can completely stand on their own if you take a vocal track out, and it could possibly attract a little bit of a different audience, but at the same time it'd just be interesting to hear those in that context, and it would be in addition to, not instead of.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna think about that for sure. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And I'm also curious, so where did the name The Ring with a W come from? I mean, there's some intention behind that as well?
Yeah. So when we started up in 2015, I had a bunch of demos. We got the guys together. We jammed it out. It was 2 years of just hanging out and playing these songs over and over again, and it was great fun. Nothing like standing in a room and making a lot of noise. With good people and good players. It was a lot of fun. But then when it came time to actually do the record, and then we realized, like, we gotta have a name for the band. And my goodness, like, try and pick anything. Like, we had lists of hundreds of names, like hundreds, and what about this? And then you Google it, and it's two kids in Minneapolis in the basement with a Fisher Price guitar or something like this, and they call themselves whatever it was, and it was really, really hard to find a name, harder than anything. That's been the hardest thing of any of this. And then my drummer at the time, he said, well, there was a song that I wrote for the first album called The Ring with a W, and it was kind of a double entendre of, the song was about, that sort of spooky, ominous kind of feeling you have when you're sitting up late at night waiting for a phone call, it's going to be bad news, so it's kind of a ringing of the phone, ringing of the hands, kind of double entendre. That's what the song was about. So the song was called The Ring, and he said, why don't we just call it The Ring? And if you Google The Ring, there really wasn't. I think there was a band in the 60s or something like that, but it really wasn't taken. None of the social media was taken, like nothing. So it seems so obvious now, but we spent quite a bit of time trying to think up a real cool name. They were all gone. So now it's short, it's interesting, it's unique, and it works. So I'm happy with it.
Okay. Yeah. No, it does work, and I think what's kind of nice also for your music is that it doesn't pigeonhole you into something. So if you hear the name The Ring, especially with the W, you're like, what is this? It could be all kinds of different genres, really. And I know exactly what you're talking about when you and your bandmates were trying to find a name, because I had a fellow artist who was trying to change her solo name, and she's like, Mark, you're a writer and you're creative. Can you help me with this? So I thought I was like literally making things up from nothing. I mean, like words that don't even exist in the vocabulary, and somebody already had it. And then there'd be another one. It's like, I'm changing letters. I'm doing all kinds of stuff to these. I'm like, how is this possible? So it took forever. And then finally, when I sent her some things, she liked a couple of them. And then she went with like her family's maiden name or something like that. So she didn't even use anything that I gave her. But just that process told me a lot and learned me a lot of, like, yeah, if you ever try to come up with something original to actually, for legality reasons and copyright and all that kind of stuff, it's tough to find something that's not already taken.
It's very, very tough. I'm going to say impossible. Like, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with that, because again, how could I take two words, change, put them together, change some letters around, and then somebody's already done that? It's like, I don't know, I don't understand. But again, it happened. It happened more than once. I could be at my other job, and that's kind of an interesting name. I put it into my phone, into my notes, so I could text her about it, and she's like, Mark, I just Googled that. That's got like 5 other things that are using. I'm like, what? So it's like back to the drawing board. And So I'm glad you found something that
Yeah.
is uniquely yours and it works for what you're doing. So that checks off all the boxes, and you're like, okay, cool, we got what we need, and we can move on.
Exactly right. Very true.
So as we kind of wrap this up, Don, is there anything else related? You already mentioned about the distribution deal, but is there like another music video that's going to be coming out later, or what else can we look forward to?
Yeah, so for sure. So right now out is The Light and Cipher, the two videos for those songs, both done by Jason Henry, and he did kind of we put out performance videos, which is for the four squares, and then the concept video with some very cool art and artist renderings, I guess you could say. I'm not sure what loops, I guess.
I'm back. Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's going to be videos for 3 more songs, because Wormhole Death is going to do one for Sorceress, and Jason Henry's done one for Dose, and he's working on another one for Steelier. So 5 of the 7 songs will have some pretty cool videos to go along with them. Three to be released shortly.
Oh, nice. That's great that there's so many more videos coming out related to the album, and there again, you're going to have the videos out. You're going to have the distribution of the second album out. All these things kind of coming together, and again, there's going to be more press behind that, is my guess. And I think there's going to be some more opportunities coming your way, just based on how strong this album already is.
Thanks. Thank you. That's nice to hear. Very excited.
Yeah, as well you should be. Yeah, things are, you can kind of feel them percolating. It's building up, and it's now that it's officially out there, and you've got more promotional videos coming, and then again, you're going to get your music even further out because of that distribution deal that you have with Wormhole, and then yeah, you're probably going to start getting more interest, I think, from Europe and some of the other strongholds that they already have their fan base in. So it could be somebody from Sweden wanting to do an interview like this with you or something like that. And
already has, and it's most of the interest actually has come from Europe in this. Like I've done, I don't know, I bet you I've done 30 interviews already. Some like this, and some typed, or like they send me the questions and I answer them by email or whatever. But probably 30, and the most of the really strong response has come out of Europe. The UK particularly strong. Italy, of all places, has quite a metal community, or hard rock proggish community, whatever this is. So yeah, it's Norway. It's really been cool, and a lot from Europe. Almost nothing from Canada, and not a lot from the US. So it seems to be a European thing so far. Hopefully that'll change.
yeah, hopefully it does change. And I guess in some ways it doesn't surprise me because of just some of the interviews I've done with guests in terms of being European-based bands of different styles, that there's a huge power metal following all throughout Europe. Not that this is power metal, but they appreciate musicianship. And then, so that definitely falls into the category of the Wring. And then I know like there's a huge Rush fan base pretty much everywhere. So I wouldn't surprise me if you start getting it more notice from like South America. Some of the guests I've interviewed in Brazil, Chile, Argentina, that they would connect right on to this kind of thing. So again, it's just spreading out. I'm super happy for you with the success you're having, and the more to come with it.
Hope so. It's fun. A lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, well, Don, thank you so much for taking the time to come back and talk about the album now that it's officially out, and with the fact that we have new things to look forward to. Maybe we'll end up connecting later this summer and do a part 3 of this, and see how far those ripples have gone, because I have a feeling they're going to go pretty far for you.
Thanks. It's a treat talking to you, Mark. Really appreciate this.
Thank you so much, and have a good night up there. I had to remember it's nighttime up there, and it's almost nighttime down here. And yeah, we'll try to stay connected and see if we can't do a part 3 sometime this summer.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Bye-bye.